Hello, and welcome to the Mountain Mystic Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Hemphill, welcoming you to another episode, a practice-centered episode, an episode here I was inspired to record this one for you all today to, yes, bring you into practice. I'm going to share a few words here at the beginning before shifting our attention again, really fully to practice. If you're listening to this like you do with most podcasts, sort of listening into the background as you do other things, not to worry. This is a practice that if you want to do it while going on with your day-to-day life, feel free. I also invite you to come back to this podcast episode at a time where you can really focus and not be distracted so that you can bring your full attention to the practice to get the most out of it. If you know me, my teachings on what I'm speaking to these days as the embodied path, what I am trying to bring you is the sort of embodiment practice that you can do at any moment in your life. You know, I love speaking to the point that there's really this problem in the embodiment tradition, or in really any sort of spirituality or religion even, where we do this thing where we sort of set aside time to be in practice, really separate practice from our life. And then we forget to do the part where we integrate practice with life. And what that ends up creating is individuals that can be oh so spiritual when, on the yoga mat or inside the church. But then we go out in our lives and return to the unskillful, wounded beings that we are. And I really believe that this is one of the big reasons the world is what it is today, is because we haven't done the embodiment part. We haven't embodied the practices in a way that we practice in all walks of life. So again, today I'm going to bring you a simple practice. Feel free to try it out as you're doing whatever you're doing. And also, maybe you give yourself some time to do it in quiet, in stillness, in a distraction-free space where you're not going to be interrupted and be able to give your full attention there. And then once you do that, go back to practicing it in your whole life, no matter where you are, with your family, with your friends, at work, out on a walk, out on a run. I was just out on a run this morning. I did like an 18-mile run this morning because, as I've been speaking to, I have this 100-miler coming up. I know, guys, I'm an extreme person when it comes to running. But I trail run the way I do because it gives me the time, the space to be out in nature to the degree that I want. And I do this practice. Where I go out on my runs and I'm running through the forest and I open up and I call in the light. And I expand my light, and it's so easy to do so out there because the trees, the ponderosas especially, they radiate their own beautiful light, and it's so easy for me to sort of reach out to them, be ignited by their light, brighten my own light and share it back to them. And, at the same time, it's so easy to stay grounded, not enter into a light-filled practice where I'm being taken away from my body and from this planet, but I'm out running on the dirt and the rock. So it is a practice where I am actively grounding myself into the earth. And I can do this intentionally, right? I can bring my attention down into my feet and really root in to the ground beneath me. But this also just happens naturally, right? You go outside, you take a walk, especially, removed from asphalt or concrete, get your feet on dirt, on rock, on root, on soil, on grass. And it just happens spontaneously. Your body does this. It grounds you into the earth naturally when you are outside. So again, you can practice this by going outside, intentionally grounding, or maybe witnessing as you experience the effect. You can also do it in a space like I am right now, sitting in what I could speak to as my super fancy recording studio, which is actually just my bedroom, sitting in front of my altar space. I love to record these for you from my altar space, which is really just a collection of rocks and seashells and sticks and pine needles and all these different earthy specimens that I've collected on my many walks and travels. So anyway, there's a little bit of an introduction for you to bring us into the space that I want to practice from. There's one more thing that I want to speak to today, and I hesitate to bring it up first before we go into practice, but I do find it very important. So I'm going to speak it here, that the reason, the inspiration for me sitting down to record this again today, it actually has everything to do with the very dark reality that I and my fellow Americans are currently living. I'm recording this as I recognize that the 4th of July, right, the celebration of our nation is coming up, and the irony that it's happening at a time where we, the American people, are experiencing the systematic deconstruction of our nation in a very heartless way. And maybe I'll put more words to what I'm witnessing, experiencing, perceiving, thinking about at the end of this episode. But I did want to name, maybe you're listening to this episode soon after I release it. Maybe you're listening to it in the future. Maybe things are looking a lot better then. But I'm recording this practice from a state that is not a space that is, most readily filled with light. It is quite the opposite. It is, quite easy in this time to be pulled into the darkness, to be pulled into the chaos, the overwhelm, the fear, the anger, the grief of it all. And I say this, this practice is one that I have, probably a dozen recordings of. I teach this practice often. It is sort of the core practice that I teach. And you can do this practice, in any state you're in for really any reason. It is very versatile. Its effects aren't precise. It's a very open, expansive, all-pervasive sort of practice. And it can be used in really any sort of situation. Perhaps I dare to say, most importantly, I find that, this practice becomes most important when we do find ourselves in the darkness, when we find that, our environment is threatening to take us down. We live in this world, right? We've lived in this reality for hundreds, for thousands of years where, wounding perpetuates wounding. And when we're wounded, we lash out, we make awful choices that hurt other people. This is why my country finds itself in the situation we are. I look at Donald Trump and I see a deeply wounded man who has known very little of love and has only known ego and probably a whole lot of fear and high pressure and pain in his life. And he takes that and now he puts that on the American people. And it's another example of wounding, perpetuating wounding at a mass scale right now. And the reason I do what I do is because I've decided I'm done with this paradigm where we take our wounds and we lash out at others. We ourselves feel terrible, so we tear other people down too. And it's the mechanism, I might say, that has allowed all the wars, all this pain and suffering, this darkness to perpetuate for far too long. And we're at a, dare I say, a tipping point in humanity where enough of us are waking up, seeing what the world is, understanding basic psychology, understanding basics of behavior and healing, et cetera, et cetera. And we're done. We're done with this pattern. But then the question becomes how? How do you actually do the thing? How do you actually walk through life in a way where, you get triggered by something, you get taken down by something, you get pulled into the darkness, and then you become conscious just enough to be a stand. You find your grounding, your center, and you demand a change in the pattern. You tell yourself no. You're not going to continue on that wound. You're not going to get taken down. You're not going to lash out at someone else. What do you do instead? What do you do instead? Well, this is the practice. This is the practice. And again, it's a versatile practice. Try it out, make it your own, deepen in or expand the parts of the practice that feel most powerful to you. Do it every day and let the practice be what it's going to be every day. Again, it's versatile, intentionally so that it can meet you where you're at in the moment when you need it. Okay, let's get started. As I was saying, if you're busy multitasking, feel free to keep multitasking. Try this out as you're doing what you're doing. I'll put the little note that if you're operating vehicles, obviously be discerning. And also try this out in stillness, in quiet, in a space where you're not going to be disrupted. So whatever you're doing, wherever you are, seated, standing, walking around, multitasking, whatever you're doing, taking a moment to tune into the connection with the ground beneath you. Feel your feet on the floor, your seat in the chair. Feel into that physical connection with the physical surface beneath you. Feel that force of gravity as it holds you into connection to ground. And as you're feeling into this connection to ground, perhaps you let your consciousness, your attention, your awareness Drop down a little bit even deeper. If you're inside, dropping down through the floorboards, down through the foundation, finding that earth beneath you, that ground, that earth beneath you. Maybe invite an imagery here, dirt, rock, root, soil, as you connect to the natural ground, earth herself beneath you. Just give yourself a moment here to connect to ground. And as you're connecting into ground, I invite you to breathe deep breaths into your body. Deep, slow, conscious breaths into your body as you connect with the physical earth beneath you. Deep grounding breaths into self, into your body. And simultaneously, these deep grounding breaths into the earth. It's your moment to connect into self, your bodily self, in connection to the ground beneath you. Just taking a few more deep breaths into this space. Taking a few more deep breaths into this space. If you notice while you're here, thoughts or energies that are higher up in your head that are distracting, that take you out of the practice, you might use your exhale to invite that to float away, melt away, dissolve away, grounding down into self, into connection with this earth. Letting all the chaos, all that frenetic energy melt away. And then from the space, what we're going to do, taking your time to do so, rising up, bringing your consciousness, your attention, your awareness up into your heart. Taking your time to get there. It might take a moment to ascend up through the earth, up through the floorboards, up through your feet, your seat, up through your body. Finding your attention in your heart. And what we're going to do here, now that we've done some grounding, is we're going to call in the light. We're going to call in and embody the light. And there's, probably two ways we're going to do this here. Inviting you to try out both. Maybe one way works better for you. Maybe you find that one way or another feels silly or ridiculous. If you have thoughts of that matter, that's okay. Just notice them, then let them fall away. Sticking with the practice here. Breathing those deep breaths now right into your chest, the center of your chest, your heart space. Breathing directly into your heart space as you feel your body in connection to the ground beneath you, breathing into your heart space. And as you breathe into your heart space, there's almost like a filling up here. It's like, can you fill your heart with your consciousness, with your attention, your awareness? Fill your heart. Bringing your consciousness down to fill your heart. Keeping those breaths going right into the center of your heart to help you stay focused here. And as you're filling your heart, perhaps you find it right here within self, that light. While you are here, right centered within self, perhaps you find it. Perhaps you find that spark of light. And if you can find it here, perhaps you use your consciousness and you use your breath to expand that light. Letting that light expand as it fills your heart, that full heart of yours that you expanded with your consciousness. Now letting that light fill it too. Filling your heart with this light. If this is feeling powerful for you, feel free to stay here, keep doing it. I'm going to invite in another method here. Method that is going to bring you up to the top of your head, your crown. So bringing your attention, your awareness, your consciousness to the top of your head, your crown. Then going even higher up above your head. Up here, there is the light. There is light here. There is always light here. Perhaps you imagine it as golden or white, sparkly light. Perhaps you envision the sun, our sun, in its bright light. What form it takes, it does not matter, but reaching up and finding the light. Then when you're ready to do so, opening your crown, reopening the top of your heart, and allowing this light to pour down through you. Down through your crown, through your skull, your head, your jaw, your neck. Calling this light down into your heart. And like we did before, filling your heart with this light. Knowing that this is not a pulling down of the light, it's not a forcing the light down. The light is here, it exists, and it wants to radiate down through you. So really here, it's a simple opening to, it's a saying yes to, opening to the light as you let it waterfall down through your head, your neck, and into your heart. Letting this light fill your heart, filling your heart. So with a heart full of light, now we can ask, where else does this light want to go within self? Does this light want to continue to pour down through your diaphragm into your belly? Does it want to pour all the way down into your root? Feeling this light as it waterfalls down through you, your body, your whole body, becoming immersed in this waterfall of light. Letting this light fill you up, your whole body, your whole self. Noticing if you turn away from the light, if you cut off the flow of light, maybe through thoughts, maybe your attention gets taken away. Maybe something else is sort of opened within that turns off this light. If it happens, noticing it. And noticing if this is something you want, or if this is a pattern that you can let fall away as you continue to let yourself be filled with this light. And at some point, you might find that you are so full that you want to allow this light to descend down through you, down through your root and down into the earth. You may find that this light wants to expand outward from you, fill the room you're in, go to a particular person or a particular situation. A moment here to be with this light, asking what best serves. What best serves? Where can this light go to best serve? Letting this light move through you as it expands out into the world. Letting this light move through you as it expands out into the world, and feeling free to stay here for as long as you want. Maybe you press pause and sit in this practice for the next 5 or 10 or 20 minutes. For now, we're going to start to close down the practice. So you might ask if there's any last thing to happen here. Any last space for this light to go? Is there anything to be told, to be known, to be shown as you embody this light? Maybe there's a situation or a person in your life that this light is guiding you to because there's something you need to go do in your life to be this light in practice and action out in the world. Let this light be healing. Let it be transformative. Let it guide you. Let it show you how you can show up in your life in a way that serves you, your whole highest self, and that serves the people and all of life on this planet Earth. Let the light show you. Let the light guide you. It's time to close down this practice now, knowing that you can return to it at any time, but really breathing back into self, breathing back into your body, finding your feet on the floor, your seat in the chair, feeling into the expansion of your rib cage as you inhale. Maybe wiggling your fingers, your toes, rolling your shoulders, bringing in some gentle movement as you come back to your body in the room you are in. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Every time I share this practice, I, feel a little funky. If you know me, I'm originally trained as an engineer. As a scientist and engineer, I've spent a good part of my life really in the mechanical, directly tangible world. And I get a little, funky feeling when I go into priestess mode and I speak to the light and how this practice has the power to actually transform our world. Then I remember the years of being in my own darkness and looking out on the world and trying to do all the practical things that the world told me would help me, and none of it working, and finding myself in a priestess training, in a priestessing path, and learning embodiment work in a way where we shine our own consciousness inward and work directly with the light in this way. And there's something about this particular practice, I'm very, very careful about spiritual bypassing. It's something, again, back in my science and engineering days, I would have been quick to judge spirituality and its ability to bypass over the very real, serious challenges of our world. Just call in the love and light and everything is great. And I say that because that's not what we're doing here. We're not here to bypass what's happening in our world. What we're doing here is calling in the light, and you might have words for what this light is. I use different words. I use different words in different situations. You can call this light divine. You can call this light higher self. You can call this light consciousness. You can call it love, whatever you want, whatever serves you in your wiring and the needs of the situation. But what we're doing here is being open to the way that something higher and brighter, we might say more intelligent, more skillful than our patterned, wounded selves, being led by, being guided by, being shown by in this energy, this vibration that is higher, brighter, more skillful, more intelligent than the self that is wounded, that is ruled by our programmed responses. And I do mean being guided by. Again, this isn't a practice for spiritual bypassing where, I'm here to take you from a state where you're in fear and grief. So I'm going to bring a whole bunch of light to you so that you can ignore your problems, right? That's not what we're doing here. I'll give you an example. I was in circle with one of, sort of my main schools, my main groups of sisters that do this sort of thing regularly. And we meet on Zoom and we practice together, and we were in this powerful, powerful practice today, a different practice, a very different practice than what we did here, but it's the same idea, right? The same idea where you're opening to some higher light, some higher vibration, and embodying it just like we did. And I came out of that practice and it's feeling so good. And I started scrolling through Instagram and Facebook and catching up on the news. And as I'm doing this, I'm looking at all the headlines and they're not good. They're bad. They're terrible. They're evil. I'm using the word evil these days. They are evil, what is happening to the people of my country. And I've, sort of sitting in the space of, I shouldn't be doing this. I've been so anxiety ridden lately. I've just been so taken down by this. And, I shouldn't be scrolling through headlines again. But, I found that I could really just sit with it and be moved into a state of action. And that's what happened. There's a lot that goes on in this platform. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Substack, I'm creating courses, and so often I feel overwhelmed by it, right? So often I feel overwhelmed by all of it, and I get into a space of questioning, like, why does it even matter? Things are so bad. I found myself earlier today, again, after this whole practice of doing the thing I'm teaching you here, I found that, in a series of 30 minutes, I was just in action. I was writing posts that people were very quickly to respond with how it positively impacted them. I was beaming my light out into the world in a very practical way. And this is one way that practices like this can impact you is it moves you into action. It moves you into action as it dissolves all the thoughts that prevent you from doing what you need to do. It moves you into action in a state where you're less anxiety-ridden. You're not taken down by the chaos and overwhelm of it all, but you can see clearly what you can do for this world. I'm going to say one more thing about this practice. You may have caught it in the practice as we were embodying the light and beaming it out into the world. Again, in the name of speaking to, this is not spiritual bypassing. This is not working with the light outside of self. Everything I do in the embodiment tradition I work in has to do with embodying the thing that you are working with. So this isn't taking light from outside of self and placing it on something else outside of self without you yourself being impacted. This is about you calling it in, embodying it, experiencing it, being it, as you radiate it out into the world around you. And this way it moves through you. It is not separate from you. It is you. It becomes you, but it is you in a more skillful, more light-filled form. I'm going to say that again. It is you in a more skillful, more light-filled form. That's what this practice does. It's you being you, shining your light out in the world. That's what we're doing here. We as a community of individuals are, shall I say, waking up to the light that is within each of us. And we are finding our feet beneath us so we can keep standing as we shine that light out on the world around us. This is what we're doing here. And this is my ask. It's an ask. An ask that you do this practice. Again, find time to do it in quiet, in a space where you're not going to be interrupted, so that you can really focus. And do this in every walk of life. Do it while you're doing dishes. Do it while you're taking a walk. Do it while you're at work. Do it everywhere. Do it while you're sitting in traffic. That'd be a powerful one. I know there's nothing like traffic to just stir me up, make me angry and upset at the world. Guys, I had to move out of Phoenix. I couldn't do traffic anymore. I could not do traffic. It was destroying me. I cannot stand it. So that'd be a good space for me to do this sort of practice. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It means the world to me that you would be in this space and try this practice out. I say that as someone who, has had to do her own work to get to a space where I do this practice, let alone teach it. I talk about our own patterning, right? The patterns that keep us small, that keep us from doing the thing we need to do in life. And I had to go through a whole lot to get out of the very small view of what is useful in this world. Living in the world of engineering and tech. And become a spiritual teacher so that we can be open to the energetic ways that we can change the world. And really, at the core of what I am trying to do is bridging the two, bringing it together. Bringing you spiritual practice, energetic practice, meditation practice that moves you to do something that matters in the world. Knowing that, yes, there is power and magic in the energetic transmission and the meditation practice itself, right? There's something magical that unfolds when you sit in silence or when you're walking through the forest and you open to the light. There is something right there that happens, whether that's a healing, whether that's the dissolution of an unskillful thought or pattern. Maybe just a little shift in behavior is what it does, and it matters. And there's the way it moves us into action to show up in the world in a way that we need to be doing right now. And, once again, as we start to close down here, a nod to, if you're listening to this around the time I'm recording this, things are really bad right now. This world we're living in, this systematic deconstruction of my country, it's not okay. It's not good. It's not good. And I believe that it is a path of destruction that will eventually take us to a rebirth, a turning over so that something new can emerge. We all know that this country has had a long list of problems that we haven't been working to resolve, that we need to, so that we can truly be a great nation and that we can truly be a leader in this world. And we've been making decisions, we've had policies in place that are not okay. And it's been the way since our initial conception back in, call it 1776. And this country needs to change, and it is changing. As it's changing, we're choosing an ugly path to do so. I don't think we needed to choose this path. There's a lot of talk in my sort of sphere about death and rebirth and about destruction so that we can be birthed anew. And I think a lot of us saw that there are different ways that we could do this. I kind of saw a gentler path that we could have taken. But instead, we voted for Donald Trump. And what we are experiencing now is a fiery destruction that is dark, is painful. Far too many people's lives are being ruined. Far too many people's lives are being ruined by this man and his decisions and the people who are working with him, and it's not okay. But as we take this road of fiery destruction, my ask is that the darkness, the pain, the anger that you feel is brought into this practice. Feel it, know it, and bring the light to it. And as you bring the light to this, be moved into action. Make the calls to your senators, to your representatives that you need to make. Tell them that this is not okay and demand that they do something about it. Show up in the places you need to show up, being the person that you need to be, a person that is being moved by light, by love, to actually make this world a better place. Let this light dissolve any ego. Let this light heal your own wounding. Let these times, these dark times, be the fuel that makes you the person you need to be so that we can actually make this country what it needs to be, which is, in my opinion, a country filled with people who are actually loving their neighbors, who are actually helping the people around them, who are lifting each other up, and who are able to express their own freedom at the same time. Freedom to do what they want to do because what they do makes them happy and makes the world a better place. That's the vision I hold. That's the vision I hold. And I know it's possible. And I believe we'll get there. I believe we'll get there. The question is what road we're taking along the way and how many people have to suffer because people are still stuck in an old paradigm. But we're not stuck there anymore. You and I, listeners of the show, members of community, we're not stuck there anymore. We can choose to act differently. We can choose to be different people. And this is how. This is one way how. There are other practices too. There are other ways to be in practice. So, if you want to be in the know, make sure you're subscribed to the Mountain Mystic newsletter. You can find that at upwardslopes.com. If you go to upwardslopes.com/forest membership, there you can join membership. You can help support my work as you receive a whole library of practice. You can spend days. You can spend days, weeks, months doing practice. So many different types of practice in there, you guys. And of course, join us in Circle. Circle is my favorite space to be in community with you. Visit upwardslopes.com/circle to find out how to do that. Circles are open and free for all. I made this decision because I want you there. I want to be in circle with you so that we can do this sort of practice together. Weave some magic, co-create some wisdom. Last thing, if you would go over to wherever you listen to this podcast and leave a review, it would mean the world to me to receive a 5-star review with a beautiful comment with what you're getting out of the show. Okay. Thank you again so much from the depths of my heart for hanging out in this space today. And I look forward to hanging out with you next time.